What's up, nerd and nerdettes? It's time for a Superpower Shorty. This superpower is a splinter off the branch of fire manipulation and a variation of elemental constructs. So sit down and get set for fire weaponry. With the ability to build, burn, and sit back and watch the blaze, users of this unnecessary power can create or wield weaponry with power over fire, which will then grant the user a wide variety of fire-based ability. This ability is not only specific to mystic weapons, but also technologically advanced weapons, if preferred. The power of the weapons itself depends on what they were created for or what level of fire-based ability they possessed, in a weird roundabout way. This ability, like the others of its family, are fairly common and portrayed in popular culture. This one perhaps more than any other version of this power, because the flaming weapon motif is one that has existed since the beginning of time, and one that you'll always find within a medium or work of art containing any hint of mysticism or magical themes. And when I say this, I can't stress how important this concept is to our real world. So much so that it can be found from cavemen fighting off predators with flaming sticks they found thanks to a stray lightning bolt, or even the stories of old, aka Judeo-Christian lore. Angels themselves wield flaming swords that make them someone you don't want to encounter on the battlefield. I think the lore says that one angel can take out like an entire army of men single-handedly. I'm not fighting anything like that. Although I do want to punch a god in the face. But would it be worth it though? Probably show up in my book of life on Judgment Day. Moving on! Norse mythology also has a weapon referred to simply as a flaming sword, which is wielded by the flaming giant Surtir of Muspelheim, basically a flame dimension. So it kind of makes sense that he would make a weapon like this. This is also thought to have roots that tie back into Judeo-Christian lore. While in various other cultures, African, Celtic, and various Eastern religions, if a flaming sword itself isn't referenced, you can bet your sweet Shay that they mention red-hued weapons, or weapons that glow red. This translates to modern works as various weapons of popular culture have taken the glowing weapon theme and run with it to create various iconic weapons such as the stereotypical energy blade trope. The most famous example of this arguably can be found in Star Wars. You know, the original trilogy with Darth Vader using the iconic red lightsaber that's symbolic of a flaming sword in some cases. Well, that's how some people look at it. This normally causes it to fill any role needed to progress the plot along, but it will normally be portrayed as a purifying force that the side of light can use against the side of darkness. You know, both metaphorical darkness and literal darkness. Or a chaotic element or symbol of sinister intent whose activation or presence forebodes bad tidings. Or even the most important and simple reason of all, a weapon of title and or authority. Shoot, who's gonna challenge someone who can cut, break, or brutalize you while setting you ablaze? Not many people are gonna question someone like that. And that's one of the things that you have to be wary about, because while I'm sure we'd all like to have superpowers, me more so than any of you, forging a weapon like this requires skill beyond measure. So, it can't be done through normal means. Unless you guys help me out. How? Easy, by hitting that like and subscribe button. And before you ask, no. The subscribe button isn't a flaming weapon in process. It's just red to get your attention? Look, I can't promise things I don't know, all right? It might be hot and it might not be hot, but all I can say is, where there's Shay, there's fire. But if you wonderful nerd and nerdettes find a way to infuse the element with a weapon, and don't need my help for that, then hit that share button and let others know how you did it. And keep it warm for me. I'll be by to collect my weapons soon. The cool thing about this power is that it snatches its themes from the very first video I've ever done on this channel, fire manipulation, with the cultural and symbolic medias translating to this power perfectly. So, if you want more information on how this power can be used, or just want a source you can relate it to, check out my video on fire manipulation. You'll get to hear an analysis of what the power really means, as well as how it's helped shape the world, and via that, how the world has shaped this power. The video is a little rough, but I think it gets the point across well enough. The link is in the description. Now, with the power to wield flaming weapons comes the natural ability to create, shape, or generate flame-based weaponry. And so I don't forget, let's add fire generation and or fire manipulation to that as well. Ain't much of a flame-based weapon if you can't create or at least control flames. You can use the fire you created or control and merge it with existing weaponry via fire infusion, and once you learn to infuse fire, preferably on a melee weapon with an edge, those seem to be the most popular types for some reason, you would be able to attack others, cutting, slicing, or poking to your heart's content, and afterwards cauterizing said wound through a 1-2 combo of slicing first and then singeing as an after effect with ignition slash. Just a little headcanon, but the previous applies to weapons that have existed before the fire, not as a direct cause of it. If you want a more fantastical version of fire weaponry, or I guess less fantastical version depending on how you look at it, then in addition to the previous, you could take this ability a step beyond and create fire-based weaponry through flame constructs. And taking that ability, you can specialize in long-range attacks via fire artillery. If we were to work our way up from the near endless list while still being concise, fire bow construction allows you to create bows and arrows from fire. Fire bullet projection lets the user release flame-based projectiles that can mimic the properties of bullets, either as a byproduct of ignition by friction, your standard heat infusion, or supercharged energy-based bullets that somehow catch fire. And fire bomb generation lets the user create and launch flame-based explosives that are usually more destructive than we care to imagine. Way more destructive. From there, we get into the melee class, those who like the physical exertion of wielding the flame-based weaponry they create. Fire whip creation allows the user to create lashes out of flame and/or heat while still allowing the user to keep a relatively safe distance. If you want to get a little closer but still keep your enemies within poking distance, then pyrokinetic pole arm construction sounds like the ability for you. This includes but is not limited to glaives, pole axes, pillars, spears, scythes, tridents, etc. But for those who feel more confident than the previous users and want the legend and fame of nearly being tanned, burned, and smelling the smoke every single time you cut someone, then pyrokinetic blade construction is waiting on you. The best part of this ability is that the heat and/or fire make this particular choice perfect for those of you who are hack happy. Because of heat's ability to loosen molecular bonds and make these types of weapons cut through most things like butter. And on the esoteric side, a flaming sword can be used to purify and/or purge evil with its light. So with that mouthful, we can add fire cutting to that to wrap this up. And this is different than ignition slash because fire cutting is using fire to cut, while ignition slash is cutting and then burning afterwards. Yeah, tomato, but people like the differentiation, so why not?